Magic button has been pressed. All right. I love how everyone's decided I'm not showing the camera this evening. We must be all relaxed and dressed in our after work gear and not wanting to show our faces. So that's all right. Welcome.
I would happily start the video, but I find that it takes up too much
bandwidth
on for everyone when you're on Zoom like this. If you've got over the 4 people,
that can happen. Yes, there's no doubt about it. So I appreciate your consideration. I just wanted to see that blue hair, of course, Chris. Welcome, Sue. Thank you for popping on, which is fantastic. And thank you, everyone, for being here for the Getting to Member session for the month of September in 2017. Hey, today you are the stars of the show. Now, a few of you are thinking, I'm just going to hang back and not say too much. But I know it's not going to last long because you're speakers. And as speakers, you love to have a bit of a chat. And so I want to hear, what are some of the barriers? How can we help you get to to member? Sorry, I was considering the lovely Dr. Narralish is a CSP. So she's got some great answers that she can share with us as well. So it's all about, what do you need to do to take that next step? What is it that's holding you back? What questions have you got to get to the next level? I've already had a couple of questions come on in, and so we've got some of those there to help us get there. So also welcome Russell, who has just joined us on the call as well. Fantastic. So we've got about 12, 11 people on the call, which is great. So I'm going to kick off with a question that's come in from the lovely Philippe Bouchard. Philippe has had his first corporate keynote. Hooray! And the question is, how do I leverage my first corporate keynote for more keynotes in the future? I've got a few different ideas, but I'm just interested in terms of what other ideas people have. I do not want this to be the Warwick talks to us all session, because even though I do love the sound of my own voice, I don't want to get everyone else bored by it. So I'm interested. What thoughts or ideas do other people have how Philip can leverage his first keynote? Neryl's unmuted herself. Are you going to say something, Neryl? You know you want to.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic. How are you going?
I'm very, very well.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so question around leveraging a first keynote. Yeah, I guess some of the things that have worked for me are having a giveaway, making sure you've got a handout with all your details and you give people some options of how they can work with you. You have a handout that's related to what you're talking about, and you make it clear that if they fill in the feedback form, the evaluation form, don't call it a sales pitch or anything. It's an evaluation form. You ask some questions about what they thought of your presentation, and then you have a capture of their details and give some options of how they might work with you. So if you have a program, or if you do consulting work, or if you've got a book to sell, they tick a box. That's a great way of capturing leads. You give out your prize, whatever it is, to the people who fill it in, and then you follow up like a maniac. That's the key. You've got to keep following up. I know I did very early on. I did a free presentation, and I did that, and I think I ended up getting work. Wasn't all speaking work, some consulting work, about $45,000 worth of work just from following people up, which was phenomenal. Right. So it kind of takes commitment to do that. That certainly works. That's one idea. Excellent.
Now I think this was actually a corporate keynote, so it's one that he's done speaking to a company. So do you give those handouts at a corporate level, or do you mainly do that when it's an open program now?
Yeah, good question. I still do it if it's an in-house. You've just got to be a little bit more subtle about it. Obviously, you can't get up and look like you're overtly selling, but it's a great way to connect with people. And if you've got a program that's more of a one-on-one, so for example, I've got an online program for communicating with influence and credibility, that might be something an individual within a company might want to take up based on seeing you speak, or they might speak to their boss, get their boss to pay for half of it or whatever. So it's still a great way to get connections. And, people move on from those companies. There's some of the best business I've done is with people that I've had a great relationship with that have moved on to another employer, and then they take you with them. Yeah, and then you've got a whole new field of people So, never kind of discount that as well. Always think about the long-term opportunities.
And I've had that with some clients who've moved to 2, 3, and 4 different companies and basically taken me wherever they go, which is fantastic when they do that.
That's it. And, rule number 1 is always be awesome. So it doesn't matter where you're speaking or what audience. I mean, another one I spoke for free at a conference on the Gold Coast. I paid to go. I paid my way up there. I felt like a bit of a loser doing that, but I just thought, this was so close to my topic area. I just have to be on this program. Mm-hmm. Now, based on that, somebody saw me about 6 months later. I got a phone call, come to Adelaide. Next thing I'm speaking to the Premier and Cabinet of South Australia on crisis communication. In fact, I'm here in Adelaide tonight to do a follow-up on that. So that was all from a free presentation. Yeah. So you just never know.
Yeah, you don't. Excellent. Thank you, Neril. One of the things testimonial would be one thing, definitely, Philippe, is to get that testimonial. When I first started out, the way I would get testimonials, because most people that you do keynotes for are incredibly busy and they never know what to say. And so what I would always do is let them know when I'm talking before I've done the gig, saying that you'll be asking for a testimonial and a referral at the end. And if you haven't told them that you're going to ask for it, it's still okay to ask for it, but just by asking, letting them know in advance sort of warms them up for it. What I would frequently do is, you've had a conversation with them after the gig, and then it's about you've had a conversation with them after the gig, so you know what they've said about you. You can then write up an email basically positioning yourself. You want that testimonial to be exactly what you want to sell yourself to a new client. So it might well be, Philippe was amazing on the day. He had such great energy. Everyone was really inspired and energized by his presentation. It really helped us see how important is design to our future success, blah, 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 blah. So you're putting in this key selling messages that you would already have into that testimonial. And so I would say to the client, look, I know you're really busy, but I'd really like a testimonial. How about I send you a draft that you can then update? And they go, oh, I'd love a draft. That'd be brilliant. And you send a draft, and most often I just get people hit reply saying, that's fantastic. And you just use the testimonial. The other thing is the referrals, and just saying to people, okay, did you enjoy the presentation? Oh, your great presentation, best we've ever had. Fantastic. Are there anyone else in your network who you think would get benefit from my speaking? And you ask them, and it's that simple. And they might say, oh, yeah, here's a couple of people, and you can either ask them to send an email connecting you, or simply just call that individual and say, hey, I was speaking to Susie Sumner from this organization. She said I had to speak to you. I've just spoken at their conference. Can I get 20 minutes to just find out more about what you do? So that'd be some of the things that I would do to try and leverage that first corporate keynote. Again, capturing people's details is terribly important. I do it for my newsletter, and on my newsletter, which I send out weekly, just a weekly burst of inspiration. And I have people who have been on it for 4 and 5 years before they finally then go, hey, we're ready. Now's the time. Now we want you. So it's you are playing a long game. So capturing and so therefore, as Neril said, you've got to have something of value for them. So if it is, hey, I've got an ebook on the top 5 things, or a copy of the slides, or a copy of this, or something, just fill out the form, or write on the business card. And what I'll frequently say is, now this is because you've already done this keynote, Philippe, it's probably not for this one, but maybe the next one, is I'll say to people, hey, if you're interested in getting my newsletter, get your business card out and write newsletter. Well, actually, my newsletter is called the Get More Goer. So I'll say, write Goer on it, And if you want, and sometimes I'll have something a little bit more upmarket that it really niches people down. So only people who want to book me to speak or host are going to want. I'll say, write that information on it. And so what that does is I'll get a load of business cards, but they've pre-selected what they want. So that way I know who my priority is for following up. That's more for a more open program from people from different organizations, but it can work for people from within the one organization, as Neril says. Any other thoughts that people have got on how you might be able to leverage that a corporate keynote to get more keynotes off that one? All right. Oh, hey, is that Russell?
Yeah. Hey, Sue, you can jump in off the back of me.
It was just a quick one, just saying we'll ask them what else, or explain what else you can do and see where else you can fit in with that company since you've already worked with them once.
Yeah. Great.
Not again next year, or something building on, or something in-house that builds on the content of the keynote.
Because people pigeonhole you. And so they'll go, oh, you're Philippe, you're the industrial design guy. They might not know that you do creativity. They may not know that you do innovation. So, yeah, that's a good one, Sue. Russell.
And smaller training for smaller groups based on the keynote content.
Yep.
Yeah, Sue's got some really good point there. It's the being able to literally go back and have a conversation with the person that you that was the organizer is going to be one of your best bets. But also, I think just making sure that you've done the work beforehand, so that you're actually getting a lot of resources when you're there. So, Philip, maybe you can answer in the comments area or in the chat. Did you get any video? Did you get any photography? Obviously you can go and get the testimonials like Warwick said before, but are there things that you can use as social proof and use as positioning that you can put out there on your own social channels? And while you wait, if basically the point is that if you can align those things up beforehand, and again, as Warwick said, make sure you're asking permission to do that, then that's going to be gold that you can actually then use, over and over again later on.
And one of the things I've done is if there is an event photographer or event videographer and there are certain shots that I want, I will go to them and say, hey, you're the photographer, great, I'm the MC or the speaker. I would really love a shot of blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. And so to really just to set yourself up for success. Now, sometimes they don't get the shot you want, but often they will. I know there are some speakers who basically hire their own photographers. Pardon me. And so basically what they're there for is you just take photos of me while I'm here. And so you just get this ton of photos that you can then use for some of your still shots, etc.
Yeah, the other thing you can do is actually, obviously, if you can get that testimonial later, making sure that you've got the logos and things on a one sheet for your speaking in the future. But the thing to I think look at with that is making sure that the testimonials and the company logos that you're getting are relevant to the next gig you're going for. So don't just go jamming everything on there necessarily. If you can actually start niching yourself toward a certain type of audience, then you're more likely to get the gig versus someone who's just an every person.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks, Russell and Sue and everyone. Something I missed during that keynote is I didn't have the time to plan to get my own videographer or photographer. So I had about a week to prepare the keynote and get everything ready. And I didn't really organize that. So I'll...
Did they have one there? Did they have a photographer there?
No.
Okay. Yep.
So,
and that's okay. And the thing is, I got to tell you, there's some of my best gigs. I had no audio recording, no video, no photo, and I'm like, oh man, if only I had. Or I'll get it like one of the gigs I did. I had the whole audience singing as a choir, and I'm like, mate, that is going to go so well as promo material. Yet on the video recording, all you can hear is me singing. You cannot hear the audience at all. So it's just like, man, I can't use that, So
basically, it was just like every other event that you do.
Yeah. It's just, here's Warwick talking. So
talking and singing again.
Yeah. Now, Joanne has her hand up. So let's. I've unmuted you, Joanne. Go ahead.
Hi, I have the same question as well on the videographer and photographer. Like Philippe, I've got my first paid speaking gig coming up. Yay!
Yay, congratulations.
Thank you. I'm super excited, but it's in Canberra. And I was just wondering if anyone knows of a photographer and a videographer in Canberra that they recommend.
I suspect with a small number of people on this call, we're not going to know. But I do know there are some people in Canberra, and they are in the PSA Facebook group. So put a request there, and you're more likely. Yeah, Russell's just put in the comments. Put a request in the PSA Facebook group, and you're more likely to get one. And you may have to just Google is your friend, find out. But yeah, ask in the PSA Facebook group. I think we have 1 or 2 members in Canberra. James Young, yes. James Young is in Canberra, and he has done the photos for convention previously, and he likes doing pictures of speakers. So he is the man. So over the course of this conversation, I'll see if I can grab his details, Joanne. So
is he a photographer or a speaker?
He's a bit of both, actually.
Okay.
So yeah, so he is a photographer and a speaker, and he's based here in Canberra. So I'm just having a look here.
Thank you.
I'll try and sort of track that down for you, and if I don't have it for you by the end of the call, hunt me down, and I will get that for you.
Hey, Warwick.
Yeah.
It's Julian Mather up here in Brisbane, hiding behind the KEA trainer symbol. I spent 25 years as a documentary cameraman, right up on video and photography. I'll just give you a little tip, and I've come out. I'm just breaking into the speaking world now. I've come out of doing professional magic for about the last 5 years. A whole lot of stuff before then,
right?
But part of what I do now is I train other magicians, and part of this is getting video and photos for their websites as well. So it's exactly the same thing.
Yep.
What if you can't get a photographer? A good thing to do is to shoot video, and you can do this on your iPhone, and most Samsungs now, and even the new iPhones will shoot in 4K. So the quality is extremely good. And the thing is that you can just set it up, or get someone to do it, and just do it steady. That's all you've got to do. But the thing is that you get 24 frames a second, and you can actually strip out really good photos of yourself, because one of the problems with getting single photos is, they always get the bad moment. And, you might get one, but your mouth is always open, your eyes are half open. But when you get 24 frames a second, you basically get unlimited choice of the best photos. And it's enough to get yourself going to put, photos on a site. It's not the same as having a super high quality raw photo from a still camera.
Yeah.
But if you're stuck, it's a really good way to get some good images to get going.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And James's details are there in the chat bar, Joanne.
Lovely. Thank you.
So, that's great advice. And I've seen a lot of speakers do that. In fact, I've seen them have 2 cameras, like 2 phones, just sit on a tripod, back of room. And some people do it now with the GoPros and whatever, and put them on stage from behind. So they've got a behind shot as well. So there's some stuff that you can do. But, at the very least, if you're in your hometown and you've got a good friend who's not too bad on a camera, why wouldn't you at the very least get them to take a few photos? And the better the camera, the better the photo. And or at the very least, stick something on a tripod. So, hey, one of the other questions, so thank you for all those answers there. That's fantastic. One of the other questions that came up from Joe Saunders, who's not here this evening, is how does she leverage her free gigs? She's been doing quite a few free gigs. She's just put a new book out, Get Good or Get Off, which is something she spoke about at convention this year. And the question that she has is, she's doing quite a few free gigs. She wants to get paid. How does she leverage that? So, and again, this is what Neril was talking about earlier. So that same information is going to apply in terms of getting their details so that you've got them on your database so that you can then sell to them. And I think she knows about, selling product, but selling product is an art. Man, can I tell you, when I first started selling product from the stage, I bombed really badly because it just was too forceful. And so I just spent a bit of time learning a few different ways to do it. And my best, I think, is about 12 grand from stage, which I was very happy with. But other people make like hundreds of thousands selling from stage. It's phenomenal. So I'm interested how to take advantage of free stuff to then leverage that into generating money.
I got one.
Go for it.
One of the things that I notice a lot of speakers fall back on is putting everyone onto their list, which is obviously a good thing to do. You want to make sure you get a lot of leverage, but you've got a business card from someone. You've got this opportunity to go and speak to them. We're supposed to be, I guess, professional communicators. And I think getting good on the phone and getting good in this ability to ring someone up that you've literally gone and met before, you've received a business card from them before, call them up and actually talk about the opportunity and what they're doing, see how you can help them, how you can solve a problem for them. And by getting into their world with that conversation, that's the thing that seems to be opening up more doors than anything else for me. So identifying people in a free gig that will be the next opportunity either for another bigger free gig or then a paid gig, whether it be corporate or whether it be training with someone else. That's been probably the biggest thing, getting on the phone after the gig and following up and speaking to those people offline.
Yeah, I think the phone is tragically underused for speakers. I think it's very easy to hide behind email and social media because you don't have to talk to someone you don't really know. And so many people will spend time sending out emails and stuff without actually making phone calls. So I think that's a really smart one, Russell. I find the more phone calls I make, the more business I get. It's that simple. And Keith Abraham said at the start of the year to me that he needs seven contacts a day. So whether that's just a text message or an email or a phone call. But who else has something to add?
Can I make a comment there, Warren?
Please do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you're just saying now. Yeah, and I totally agree with Russell that just putting people on a list and bombarding them with stuff is not going to get you gigs in my experience. It might for some people, but that's not what works for me. And, you're probably turning people off in the process. It is that targeted personal approach. It's really thinking about, where do I want to speak? What sort of organisation do I want to speak for? Go and find them. Get on LinkedIn. You can do really sophisticated searches on LinkedIn. You can find specific contacts, connect with them directly and tell them why. Like, don't be afraid to tell them why you're connecting and say, look, I'd really appreciate you accepting my request. I'm looking for more speaking opportunities in XYZ. Maybe it's another country or maybe it's a specific sector. That's what opens doors up if you put yourself out there rather than just sending kind of generic material. And so what I was talking about handing out in the talk, you're giving people the opportunity to tick a box if they want to talk to you about a specific thing, and then they're a warm lead. You've got the opportunity to pick up the phone, call them and say, thanks so much for your kind feedback or your comments and my talk. That was fantastic. Look, I noticed that you ticked the box that you'd like to talk to me about media training or whatever. Can you tell me about what's going on in your organisation? Where are things at for you at the moment? And then you have a conversation with them. And that's the kind of thing that opens doors. And the fact that they've ticked the box, they've given you permission to contact them. So that's not such a big deal when you do call. In fact, most people are pleasantly surprised that you've actually bothered to follow up after they've done that. So it might only be 2 or 3 people in the audience that tick the box, but at least that's 2 or 3 warm leads.
Yeah.
It's definitely worth following.
Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, look, it's important to be strategic. I think there's a lot of people who are doing their marketing with a shotgun rather than a laser. And so you're right. If you're doing a free gig, you got to understand, why am I doing this? What's the value for me? Because if you're just doing it to be nice, then you got to really ask the question, for what purpose? You're probably good as a speaker as it is, unless you need the practice. So it's like, what do I get out of it? And then, as Narol said, if you're making the phone calls, you want to be strategic. So the ones who want to be contacted gets called first, and then you can call the others. But you are looking at, who are the people I want to be in front of? So, no, some great comments there. What other questions or barriers are people having that they want talked about? We've covered the 2 questions that have been put forward, and that's only taken half an hour. A couple more questions, and we'll be here till tomorrow. Because you are the star of the show. Your questions. So, ask.
Cover one more.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm in the next sort of few days going to launch a public workshop, and I just guess I'd like to get some tips on what probably are the best ways to get bums on seats, so to speak, through obviously the social media channels and existing contacts. If anyone's got any, real nuggets that seem to work for them.
Yeah, great. Have many people done open programs? That's a good question. And if you have, what suggestions would you have for Chris? Russell?
Yes, is the answer. I've done plenty of open programs, and then obviously I've done plenty of stuff for PSA as well. So between that, running events for this one, and my business awards, and all the rest of it, it all comes down to consistency and to activity. So basically, making sure that you start and give yourself plenty of time before the program to actually communicate out to the obviously the right audience, but as broad a right audience as possible, and be able to follow up with them. I would suggest you need at least 7 touch points in that. And with that, the idea is potentially not to just use one form. So don't just do email, don't just do social media, don't just phone them, don't just knock on their door and say, are they coming? But maybe do all of those things. And I know that a lot of the people who are running bigger programs where it's over about 200 people, they have feeders that actually work up to a larger program. So they might do one larger program every 3 months, and then in between they're running somewhere in the neighbourhood of 6 to 10 smaller feeder programs which feed people into the larger program. So basically the idea is not just to do it and hope and pray people will come. It's do it and then make sure you've had an opportunity to share the value of this with all the people who would care, and make sure that they have booked. So it's not just about knowing that it's on, it's knowing that they've booked. So activity ends up getting bums on seats in my experience.
Yeah, that's a good one. And giving yourself more lead time than what you think you need. Too many people sort of say, oh, I've got to have an event in a couple of weeks. And, away I go. I'll put it on Facebook. If I build it, they will come. And never has there been a bigger piece of false information published. You need to actually market it. And again, it's looking at strategically, who is this going to appeal to? Where do they hang out? Where do they go? What do they read? And making sure you get in front of them that way. Russell, please add more.
One final thing as well. I watch a lot of people and see the way they go about putting these programs together. And I have to admit, one of the best bums on seat programs I've ever seen was Key Person of Influence. So you may have seen their courses around. I'm not advocating the Key Person of Influence program, but they put together a 500-seat audience at the second week of January, which is a very difficult time to actually fill a room. And the way they did that is through a massive affiliate marketing program where they had about 20 to 30 people come from about, I think it was 10 to 15 different organizations that were feeding into that event. And then they personally went and got a whole bunch of people as well. So building something like a massive affiliate marketing program can actually take a lot of time. But if you are looking at doing public programs, then maybe look at a scheme where the entire ticket price may actually go back to the person who's selling tickets on your behalf, as one way of running an affiliate program.
Yeah. Natasha Denman also does it very well with her Ultimate 48 Hours. And she'll run, I think she runs free or incredibly low-cost webinars, which then lead into a $45 half-day, three-quarter day thing, which then lead into the bigger day. So there's this drip kind of step-by-step, as Russell was talking about. And I know she does a lot of Facebook marketing to attract, and she's really niched down the kind of people that she wants. So, and she's quite happy to talk about it. In fact, they've written a book, How to Get Bums on Seats. So they have a process that seems to work very well for her. So much so, I think she's going to the States.
The other thing with them is that a lot of people see her activity online and they think that it's just doing that activity, just doing the Facebook Live videos and doing all that on a regular basis. She spends a good amount of money, and I'm talking about tens of thousands of dollars in advertising to make sure that she's pulling a new audience, not just working on her existing audience. So that's a big part of it, is feeding that larger engine.
Yep. And look, Dale Beaumont also does with his Blueprint for Success. Again, he'll do, every state he's doing the half-day thing, which then drags them into the bigger thing. And, with the low-cost or no-cost events, a lot of people they say they will go, but don't actually go. So there's a whole lot of reminders and touch points even after you've booked. Whether there's automated IVRs that call you up on your phone, there's others that send you texts to remind you. So there's a whole lot of process. So Chris, it might tie into a bigger process of where does this workshop fit? Is this one you're going to do on multiple occasions? Is this the little one that feeds into the bigger one, or is this the bigger one? So just looking at where does that fit in your sales marketing funnel. So hopefully there's been some answers in there somewhere that have helped.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it all.
No worries. What other questions have people got? What's stopping you from getting to your member certification? Because that's what we're here for, to help you get to member. So what are some of the things that are stopping you? What help do you need?
Could I ask a question if no one else
You may.
wants to jump in? Great. At this gig I'm speaking at next month, the organizers have got an app for participants to instantly write their testimonials or their feedback for the speakers.
Yes.
And so there won't be any handouts going around asking people for their feedback because they've all got their phone. So I was just wondering if you had any suggestions on how I could actually get people's contact details to at least start feeding my database.
Yeah. Great question. And there are a lot more events that are starting to use these apps. And this is where you do what Neril said, at the very beginning, is you give them something. You have an offer that they're like, oh, I want that. Joanne, how many people are going to be in the audience, ballpark?
Up to 200.
Okay, great. And so it's really quite easy if you can get an assistant or a helper or even a fish bowl, like a vase or something on a table as people are leaving, and make an offer to them saying, I want to make sure, I've only spoken for 45 minutes. I've got a whole lot more to share with you. I've got a 30-page ebook, special report on the top 50 things you need to know about, blah, 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 or something else of value that you think people are going to want. All you've got to do is put your business card in that bowl as you leave, and I'll make sure that I email it to you. And if you don't have a business card, that's not a problem. Just write your name and details on a bit of paper, stick them in the bowl, and I'll make sure I get it to you. So you can do something as simple as that. And then also say, and if you want more, like if you want a phone call from me to find out about how I can help you get to the next level in your journey, just write the word more in big bold letters on the back of your business card, and I'll make sure I get in touch with you. So what you've then got is people who just want the free thing, and then people who want to take it to the second level. So you can then follow up with the right person in the right time frame. So people who want more, I'd be following that up very shortly, and then the others, just get to the others as you do. So that would be the way that you'll get them. So because most people with those apps don't put all their information in them anyway, and you can on some of those apps tag people and export their details, but some you can't, and many people don't put their full details in the app anyway. So that's why you've got to operate outside of it and give them some kind of offer or give them some kind of thing where they've got to give you your email address. Other people will have a website there are different other services. Kiwi Live is one. You can jump on a thing called Kiwi Live, and there is a fee for it, but it's not large, and give them a code word. And so they can jump on, put in a code word, put in their details and get the free thing. But meanwhile, you've then got their details. And so you can get everyone in the room to get their phone out and do it. So there's some of the things that you can do to capture people in the audience, capture the details.
What was that called again?
Kiwi Live, Kiwi Live. So just Google Kiwi Live and it should come up. There are other apps. That's just one I know of. I know the speakers, and the reason it's called Kiwi is that it's built by a guy out of New Zealand, but a lot of my speaking colleagues in the States use it. So yeah, kiwilive.com. But I think there's Poll Everywhere, and there's some other polling services where you can get it, but that's one that you can use. But I've used the low-tech way of get your business card out, write more on it, and we'll give you some. So
thanks.
No worries at all. What other questions do people have? What barriers have you got to getting to member? How can we get you there? By the way, just so you know, the main way to get to member is you've got to do the work. So if you're magically waiting for something to happen, it ain't gonna until you get there, pick up the phone, make the calls. So just make sure you actually do the work.
So to help do the work, just as a helpful piece of information that I've found this year, is that I have been able to surround myself with people to support and encourage, and it's invaluable. So I have a mentor, I have a buddy who I check in with every 3 weeks, I have a mastermind group, and all those three things, as much as it can feel overwhelming sometimes because it's just like, oh my God, I've still got more to do, it has catapulted my speaking in ways that I couldn't do alone.
Great. Yeah. And that's so important. I mean, I have a speaker buddy who we have a phone call every Monday morning at 8:30, every Monday. And it's just, what are you doing for the week? What did you get done for the last week? You know, you got to do it. And then I have a speaker coach who helps me on stage with some of my performance stuff. And then I love going to the Platform Professional Summit things because the quality of the stuff in there is just phenomenal. So I had a great comment from Russell as well. You've also got to do the paperwork, because I suspect there's a few people on the call who either could be a member, but they just haven't done the paperwork yet, or they're very close to it. So, and I would look at the paperwork sooner rather than later, so your systems are set up to support it. And that includes your accounts as well. So. All right. What other questions, queries have people got? And if you've run out of questions, we will end the call. We've done our half hour.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, go, Chris.
Again, it just relates to the paperwork. It's a good point because that's something that's on my list to do. And I just want to talk about paperwork for a second. Yeah. I guess I don't want to necessarily phrase it as growing pains or stretch points in needing to hire or outsource. But I think one of the issues are, you're getting clients, you're getting them ready. They're saying, yep, we'll sign up and work with you. And you've got more coming in as well that you've got to service. And then all of a sudden, I'm sort of finding myself bogged down with, all right, venue, room hire, participants, liaising every week beforehand, what's happening now. And it's not really about being below the admin. But you're out there selling, you're out there delivering, and it's probably it's one of those questions: what do you outsource? But how do you get over those small things of when you're getting the client, those immediate things that you got to do to service them that seem sometimes very insignificant.
Yep. Which is great coming from you as a customer service expert. How do we service the clients so in the way that they want to be serviced? Look, and I'm a huge believer in systems and having systems and processes. So I will have a gig sheet. So when I get a gig, and it's basically, and it's really simple, it's just a checkbox list. And once the gig comes in, I ask the questions that are on the gig sheet. We have the agreements, all the details, the addresses, all that sort of stuff. And you just work your way down it and then set up reminders in the diary for the different dates that get checked off. And by having the systems, it makes it a lot easier when you are at the point and you can outsource and can get an admin to do some of this work. You can go, here are the systems I follow, and just hand the systems to them to follow. So I pay $40 an hour for someone who is my executive assistant who does a whole variety of things for me. They're not full-time for me by any means. Sometimes they're only doing 5 hours a week, sometimes more, sometimes less. I've outsourced some stuff overseas and then brought it back because it wasn't done the way I wanted it to. But the secret is having the right systems. And so knowing, okay, this is done, and making it easier for yourself. So on my website, I've got under About Warwick, I think there's for conference organizers tab. And so that's got all my bios, 4 different photos, some in high resolution, some in low resolution, because they are always going to ask, oh, we need a bio and we need a photo to put into the program and to have on the website. So I can just easily say to them, great, go to the website, under this tab, all the details there. And they love it. So it is about having the systems and the process set up. Anything you do more than, say, 5 times needs a process because it is a repeatable thing. So as your clients are coming in, it just helps you keep track. So you're not going, crap, Who's this client? What's that for again? You can quite easily see what it is and what you're doing. Neril, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, hi Warwick. I use a program called Workflow Max, which is it's part of the Xero stable. So Xero is the financial management software. Workflow Max it manages your workflow, as the name suggests. So I use it right from quoting and doing proposals to kind of keeping a track of all my jobs. It just means I can download my brain. Everything's all in one place, and then it manages invoicing as well. And then it flows seamlessly into Xero. So Xero XERO, it's like MyOb or one of those types of things. So then that goes straight into my financials. So doing my BAS and all of that is quite seamless. So I'm with you with the systems. I do have an assistant who works about 16 hours a week, but I've just had some changes there. So I'm looking at making a different arrangement. So yeah, I think it's not a matter of needing someone full-time necessarily. It's about choosing out of the array of platforms that are out there, what are the things that it's going to make my life easier. So, with the event management, using Eventbrite or try booking as I'm using at the moment, I find that a little bit better. Using the functionality of those things to kind of help you take out some of those steps. And as you say, if you're happy to do something 4 or 5 times, it's time for an intervention. Get some help.
And Russell's comment online is that he uses that workflow. What's it called? Workflow Max, Daryl?
Yeah, Workflow Max.
Workflow Max. He uses that to run his whole business. And Russell, without speaking out of school, he's got multiple employees and is a very significant business that he runs. His comment is that the lead generation plugin is also very, very good. So that's
good. My husband's got quite a large business, and we use it on that. So then I took that and use that for my little business, and it works a treat. Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic. Awesome. The question is, did I get my gig checklist from somewhere? No, I got it from experience. So because I find everyone's a bit different, and it's what are the steps that I would go through? So what are the key things I need to know? What's the date? What's the dress code? What's the location? How many people in the audience? What's the topic? What are the outcomes they want? Just so the questions that you will ask as part of your briefing, just so it's all together. Because if I'm booking a gig and sometimes they're 12 months out, as I get closer, it's like, what did they want again? And so by having it on that sheet is a good way to do it. So it's just through building it over time and coming up with that. So what other questions have people got? I think that's it. All right. Well, without further ado, thanks everyone for joining us for the Getting to Member session. And thanks everyone for being here. And if there's no further questions, I shall bid you adieu. This will be uploaded to the Vault and will be there. Please make sure you make the most of the Vault. By the way, there's a new program that's just gone out. And for those of you and there's a couple on the line who are already a member or about to be a member or a CSP, the Many Faces of PSA. It's very exciting. Check it out. Have a look around. It'll be on our social media. Or go to manyfacesofpsa.com.au and find out more of the detail. If you're not a member yet, become a member very, very quickly, and you could be included as part of it. So it will be a cool thing. Alrighty, hey, thanks everyone for being here this evening. It's been fun, and I look forward to seeing you next time.